broad category of personality traits. So human behaviour. Human behaviour is hard to predict. Well, why is human behaviour hard to predict to a point? Well, because you've got a range of choices that you can make at any one given time. So various choices. So you can here see there in primal times, you can make a decision. What do? Do you hunt the animal? Do you run away? Do you there's a variety of choices one can make in certain situations and in certain contexts as well, which makes prediction challenging at any specific time. You've got societal influences. So if they're hungry, they're going to hunt that animal. If they're not hungry, they might make a decision. Chemistry can impact your mood, motivation. We know that. What you see influences what you believe, your perception. So looking there, thinking, will we face a challenge there? And so there's many things that are going through your mind in certain situations. And that's sort of what makes things challenging to a point. Do you fight? Do you flight? Do you freeze? There's many factors that determine behaviour, genetic. Now we also know obviously the environment, genes, environment, correlation. From this point of view anyway, the big 5 personality traits, they're probably the most accepted and commonly used model of personality in academic psychology. The big 5 came from statistical study in responses to personality items using a technical factor analysis. So what they did is they looked at a number of responses. So researchers can look at the responses of people to hundreds of personality items and ask the question, what is the best way to summarise an individual from this context? And 5 stood out. Okay, this has been done with many samples from all around the world, and the general result is that while there seem to be unlimited personality variables, 5 stand out, explaining a lot of the personality, a lot of a person's answers to questions about their personality. I'm going to go through. So the big 5 is not associated with any particular test. As I've mentioned before this morning, it's a variety of measures that have been developed to measure them. Okay. McRae and Costa developed the 5-factor, the FFM. Goldberg, which I mentioned earlier before too, describes personality in terms of 5 broad factors as well. So psychologist Lewis Goldberg referred to these as the big 5 factors of personality and developed the International Personality Item Tool, the IPIP, an inventory of descriptive statements relating to each trait. Within each factor are a set of individual traits which relate to more specific aspects of personality. Which we'll go into a little bit more detail. The big 5-factor markers from the International Personality Item Tool developed by Goldberg, 92. The 5-factor model is also commonly measured by the NEO, by McRae and Costa, which has been changed and adapted. The NEO PIR personality inventory revised, so it's been revisions. The big 5 are not associated with a particular test assessment, as I mentioned. A variety of measures have been developed to measure them. Okay. So researchers don't always agree on each label, as you can imagine, for each dimension. Research suggests that both biological and environmental influences play a role in shaping our personality. And how do you know that? Through a twin study. I mentioned yesterday, you take identical twins through different experiences that they have throughout life influences their behaviour, as well as other things too. So you could say it's the nature-nurture debate is salient. We know now that it's genes, environment. Genes, environment. The 5-factor model, well, what's the point of it? Well, it's used to help understand and predict relations between personality traits, success in social, academia, and professional circumstances. Predict that, gives you an idea. There's many variables to behaviour, not just personality, as we well know. this being one variable, which is useful. The criticism is that it's data-driven and not based on psychological theory. There's early evidence published by Fisk in 1949, sort of see the early evidence around these personality traits. And during the 80s and 90s, a vast array of research combined to support the 5-factor model. Not everyone agrees in the naming of the 5 traits. The 5-factor model, so you've sort of probably come across the NEO before by Costa and McRae, and that sort of measures, it's an inventory that examines a person's 5 personality traits. And it also has 6 subcategories called facets. So underneath each trait, you've got subcategories called facets. PIR, Personality Inventory Revised. So it begins in 78, the publication of Personality Inventory by Costa and McRae, and then you've got updated variations in 85, 90, 205. So NEO-PI and the NEO-PIR, because it becomes revised. Okay. So we're going to sort of go through the traits shortly. There are instruments out there, you'll see, that claim to measure them as well, but the NEO is often seen as the most respected one by McRae and Costa. If you mentioned before the IPIP by Goldberg, you'll find the big 5 items in public domain available for researchers. If you sort of go to that link there, you'll see it in the domain.
Is anything in this book?
It's in the PDF, but yeah. So yeah. So, in the e-manual. Yeah. If you don't have that, I'll send that through to you. Yeah, absolutely. So genetics explain about 50% of personality traits, but the percentage isn't the same for every personality trait. And they are stable in time. So someone who's neurotic at 15 is likely to be neurotic at 50. Someone who's conscientious at 15 is likely to be conscientious at 50. They are stable in time, research suggests. So you could argue they're too complex and rich for any one instrument to explain. But irrespective of that, there is some validity and reliability. Personality assessments can help create a neutral language around personality divide to help enhance team relations. These are something to work with. But one thing that I always say is that we've got to be mindful of these things, because let's say, for example, let's say this is where they could be used badly. In my opinion, this is my humble opinion, where I think they can be used badly. Let's say you're going to hire someone to be a trainer or a lecturer. Would you want an introvert or an extrovert? Precisely. Great point. Now the issue is that you'd think that most people would go with that, but there's some really, really good introverts who work as trainers and lecturers. You probably much prefer to be in the research lab, but they make very good. So if you're hiring someone on the basis that you think, you know what, yeah, extrovert, great, then you could be hiring the wrong person, because there are factors that are important too. You know, like knowing their stuff and conveying the message, and many other, conscientious as well. Many other things that are important too. And that sometimes can be done badly, in my opinion. So, you've missed out on a great member of staff who's very introverted, because you think, well, not an extrovert, probably won't do well. Does that sort of make sense? Where that's a danger sometimes in my world. People might beg to differ, and that's fine. It's okay. This is my observation. So each trait has 6 facets, and different ways to measure traits, such as I mentioned, the NEO and the IPIP. Just 2 different ways of measuring it. The 5 are conscientiousness, neuroticism, extroversion, agreeableness, and openness. So if you remember the acronym OCEAN, is quite useful to be able to recall. If you remember OCEAN, then it's easy to recall. But we're going to highlight more detail, and the PDF I've sent you has all this anyway. So if you haven't received it, then I'll make sure you receive it. That's my job. That's my positive outcome approach. So let's have a look at conscientiousness, and we're going to go with some research as well to sort of support some of the hypotheses around some of these traits. So you can see that the facets, the subcategories, are slightly different in the NEO and the IPIP, but they pretty much point to the same thing, albeit the label might not be agreed, but the actual trait is the same. So conscientiousness, and you can see the subcategories in the NEO, for example: competence, order, dutifulness, achievement, striving, self-discipline, deliberation. Some are the same, some are slightly different in the IPIP. We won't go through all of them. Same again. You can see they're slightly different. Neuroticism is emotional stability, and you can see the subcategories are slightly different. Now then, it's not a pathological model. That's not the anxiety as we know anxiety from a pathological point of view. But there is a link between anxiety, one could suggest in the research, to neuroticism. But we won't sort of go into each one of these, but we'll get a broader view of each one. Extroversion, and once again you can see there's a slight difference in the naming of some of the facets between the two. Agreeableness, openness. There's been a sixth added, and that was a paper by Lee and Ashton in 2004, and they sort of talk about honesty and humility as well. Okay? So, you can also have the presentation too, if it's any use to you as well, which might be of use to you. Each has 6 facets, I mentioned that, and that refers to the traits of openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. So the 5 traits, 6 facets, from the point of the 6th one coming on. So you can get OCEAN acronym, and that's quite useful to remember. So, let's sort of think a bit deeper. What makes you who you are? What makes you unique? What makes you different to anybody else? Certainly personality, traits. We're all different. We know we're all different, broadly speaking. We also have similarities in some respect as well. And let's have a look at the, just a very brief overview of each one. So conscientiousness. Okay. Extreme conscientiousness is associated with perfectionism and difficulty making decisions. Does that sort of resonate with anybody? Okay. Who would say that they're conscientious? Yeah. And I think most people in this group are. You wouldn't be. So that's a good place to start, isn't it? So you're here. You're here on time. There's many things that you do. So from a behaviour point of view, so you can see conscientiousness. Extroversion. High scores in enthusiasm, outgoing, excited. Introvert, quiet, alone, independent. So who would say that they would be on the scale of extroverted? Yes, yeah. Absolutely, yeah. Absolutely. I think so. But who would say they've got a preference on the scale of extroversion? Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
I would have thought I was more low on that scale.
I wouldn't have guessed. No, and it's not a good or bad thing. And to be fair, ironically, it resonates with me. I'm quite an introverted character in an extroverted world. I sort of like doing my own thing and researching and reading, and I'm quite happily just reading and researching. But I also enjoy speaking to people and doing courses as well. So it goes back to what we said earlier, where you sort of we can make judgments based on what we feel people. So the danger is to pigeonhole people too with all these things. Nothing else. Well, yeah. The context plays a part. You could make a point too. One could certainly make that point. Neuroticism, high scores in stress, worry, and negative emotion. Lower emotional stability. The higher you score in neuroticism, the more stress you're going to get. The more worry you're going to be about certain things. The lower emotional stability is going to be. Not that I would admit it. Who in the group thinks they score higher on the spectrum, very loose, than neuroticism? Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, one's doing something that's sort of completely out of one's comfort zone in one sense, that could have an influence as well. But equally in saying, if you take two people with a trait, then one might respond differently than the other. We sort of conscientiousness as well, organised, self-directed, controlling, low in spontaneity, long carelessness as well. Agreeableness, trusting, empathic, compliant, low on hostility, empathic, hard to empathy with people. I would say, as a loose observation in this group, most people are pretty agreeable, unless you tell me otherwise. Unless you're just putting on an act and you're biting your lip in the back there. It's all going to come out, Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and to be fair, people who are high in conscientiousness and agreeable tend to do better in various environments. In one respect, obviously, different things are useful. Different. It's not to say you can't be successful if you're, disagreeable people are good for certain roles too. Absolutely. But generally speaking, if you're sort of employed by an organisation, agreeableness and conscientiousness is going to. I think so. I think so, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I once did a course, and there was a guy in the course who was very high he scored very low on agreeableness. You can sort of sense that. And what I did, I used a tactic. I started to agree with him. And that threw him out completely. So every time he disagreed, I actually agreed. Because I agreed, he didn't know what to do with himself. As you do. That's a tactic. Well, actually, I agree with you. You're not meant to agree. You meant to disagree. No, I agree. You're right. Yeah. I don't know what to do. Play little psychological games with people. Yeah. As you do. Play the game, man. Yeah. Go on to rock and roll. Openness as well. They tend to be really creative and open to new experiences. Low in practicality, conventional, skeptical. I think they're pretty open. People score high in openness in this group, that's for sure. I think the issue of being high in openness is going to be your creativity. Is going to probably lend well to other people. You see a lot of people who are openness from a financial point of view, going to measure success that way, don't do that great in respect to being really creative and so on and so forth. And there's always people out there going to sort of take that sort of creativity and.
I think it's scoring within one of the the level that sort of we've got an element of it, or really high, or.
Yeah, I mean, I'll send you a basic question. You'll sort of have an idea. Yeah, there's a spectrum as well, isn't it? Absolutely. Absolutely. So the FFM inventory was developed by Costa, and not mentioned there, and Craig. if you do get a chance to, got time, probably worth reading the paper, gives you an idea. So the research suggests that they have a biological base, these sort of traits, and if one's neurotic, I mentioned at 15, they're very likely to be neurotic at 50. And think about people that you've known over the years, because their persona, their trait. Have they really changed a great deal? When you think about it, their personality traits, they're low in conscientiousness at 15, there's a very good chance they're the same. So if they're low in agreeableness at 15, then probably going to be the same as they go along in the journey in life. Let's look at some of the research and correlation. So we cover emotional intelligence tomorrow. There is a correlation between EI, emotional intelligence and personality traits, using Goldman's inventory that demonstrates the correlation between emotional intelligence and extroversion. So there is that. We'll touch on that tomorrow. This can be adapted, according to Cray and Costa, across culture, societies and continents. So this can be adapted whether you're in Spain or whether you're in, the UK, America. It can be adapted pretty much. These 5 traits are universal in that sense. Albeit, I was going to touch on, there was one place apparently that it didn't stack up. There was some tribe in Bolivia somewhere, some research suggested, but that's another story for another day. But the main theories of personality identified by factor analysis, all the factor analysis is, cut a story short, is a technique that's used to reduce a large number of variables into fewer number of factors. So Costa and McRae use statistics to calculate these 5 personality dimensions for what it's worth. And you can sort of see with the research that sort of biological base. A body of research out there that suggests that it has a biological base and is adapted cross-cultural. Which is quite interesting. It begins as a purely descriptive model of personality and it's become fundamental now in the world of psychology. The inventory, it might be worth having a look at that. There's the website there, ICIP.RI.org. That's quite useful to learn more. I'll send you any of you missed two presentations. That's okay. No, that's fine. It is indeed, yeah, it will be. I'll sort of signpost it so you can go for it. But here's some things, some research and some food for thought going forward. So there is research out there to suggest women are more agreeable in general than men. That's a generalisation, because obviously we know that's not always the case, but as a general rule, women are more agreeable than men. That's what some of the research points towards. There's a paper by Costa and McRae that said neuroticism is a trait associated to lack of emotional control, anxiety, and sadness. Okay, whilst it's not a pathological model, there has been some research around certain traits linked to pathology. So neuroticism is certainly a trait that has a link to emotional control. So, okay, if someone scores high in neuroticism, are there certain roles they might not be adapted to, do you think? And what sort of role do you think someone who's not high in neuroticism would struggle in? Perhaps a high pressure role. Now, I'm not saying it's a good or a bad thing, but if you are high in neuroticism, this is just my observation. I was going to put it out there, and anyone who thinks otherwise, drop me an email. I think you got high in conscientiousness and high in neuroticism. If you don't channel neuroticism, it could create problems. Because if you're very conscientious, and we talked about what it entails to be conscientious, but then you've got high neuroticism, what do you think could happen? Precisely. And you're putting yourself under that pressure, but you're not handling the pressure really, really well. Can you see in that respect? So I think for me, look, you know, you can fine tune these things, but being aware of that, and then sort of maybe modifying your day, regulating your day. Now, I did some work with somebody one time, and we sort of talked about regulating their day, because they were quite high in neuroticism, they're very conscientious, and they really had to manage their day, because if they put themselves in, you know, certain situations early on in the day, it didn't set things up really well. Particularly, obviously, if you sort of go by the circadian rhythms and cortisol, as well as, and you think, okay, the cortisol levels are high in the morning because the sun comes up, and in ancient times, what did we do in the morning? We had to get hunting for food or run away from, you know, predator or prey. So your cortisol sort of spikes up, and if you high neuroticism and conscientious, you think, I've got to get all these things done, and if I don't get them done, and if this doesn't happen, you can sort of see how, you know, in that, from that perspective. So being aware is quite useful, I think, anyway. Absolutely. Especially if going with the research that the biological based and it's sort of pretty fixed. So some more research too, as well. A low score on agreeableness trait correlates to poor academic performance and behavioural problems in school. Not a given, but just sort of something to think about. Suggesting higher scores in agreeableness in adulthood correlate more stability in work life and less maladaptive behaviour and less likely to develop problems such as depression. Now, that's not the only pathway, obviously, to alcohol depression. No one's suggesting that. But from a stability point of view, behaviourally, there is the link between high agreeableness and adaptive behaviour, which sort of makes sense. If someone's really disagreeable, you know, it has its place, but equally, what do you think can happen? You know, if someone's high in low in agreeableness and very disagreeable, it can be pretty exhausting as well, can't it, too? Has anyone ever come across someone who's really low in agreeableness and experienced that, sort of reflecting on that? Yeah. It can be pretty challenging, isn't it, for the disagreeable and stuff. So what I would say too, if you're very high in agreeableness, you want to say yes to everybody, and that's a problem. That can be a problem, can't it? Because can you say yes to everybody? Because you could say yes, to one person and somebody else, but then you think, well, how am I going to meet both?
Yeah, that's exhausting as well.
Precisely. So do bear that in mind. And a lot of the assertiveness trainings I do, ironically, is with people who are high in agreeableness. They want to, agree and sort of roll with things. It can be, and I think that can sort of link that, absolutely. And I think from the assertiveness point of view, there is sort of a line that one needs to draw, you would think. And people who are high in agreeable, whilst they do well in the classroom, and they do well in work as well, and there is a big correlation to stability in life in general. There's also that sort of correlation to assertiveness too, I think, where, okay, how does it feel to tell someone, no, I can't do that, and sort of setting these boundaries in place. And certainly in my experience of helping people around the areas of assertiveness, that's one trait that people score high on, that sometimes aren't the most assertive. And that can create problems too for themselves too. And you see it at work as well. You can agree to take on, you can agree to take on more than you can chew, so to speak, as well. The positive to that is that we see the research, like Walmsley, for example, it has a good trait, a strong correlation to work performance across many sectors. There's a body of evidence out there. If you recruit someone who's high in agreeableness, there's a very good chance that they're going to do well across many sectors of work performance. Okay. The highest of the traits, psychopathology, is neuroticism. Okay. It's not a pathological model. The highest of the traits that has a correlation to psychopathology is neuroticism, and that has got correlations to depression and anxiety. Can you see why it would do? Precisely, certainly from a thought perspective and anxiety perspective. Absolutely. So from the point of view of emotional disorders as well, too, you can see body evidence around that. So my suspicion would be, if one is highly neurotic, avoid a situation that's going to escalate that trait if possible, but where not, then look to tune into it. It can be a useful thing too, if you sort of tune it in the right way, sort of can fine tune rather than sort of run you, then you run the trait. That sort of makes sense. Some more research here, higher levels of personality traits in conscientiousness and openness among students had a profound interest in continuing education. So one paper I read one time, some of the students who had the desire to carry on with education were high in conscientiousness but high in openness too, which sort of makes sense as well from a graduation point of view. A correlation between conscientiousness and positive long-term health. There is a correlation between conscientiousness and health conditions too. Whilst I'm not a medical expert and I profess to be, it's worth reading and sort of seeing how that sort of correlates, and it sort of probably makes sense that one who's conscientious may look after themselves in one way, which is quite interesting. Some more research, a low score on agreeableness. We talked about that and how in this paper by Larson, Fulkin and Adams, they sort of suggested that a low score on agreeableness reflected to poor academic behavioural problems in school, and this sort of went on to maladaptive behaviours on their journey in work. So, the person who's low in agreeableness in school sort of tended to carry that on. If you look at longitudinal studies in the working environment, that didn't change very much, and it made stability difficult. And it would do to a point, really, in one sense, I would think. The point I made before is that when we talk about cross-culturally, there was a paper actually that I sort of came across that talked about how the administration of the FFM in illiterate society in Bolivia raised the validity about it cross-culturally. So, I mean, as a general rule, it works cross-culturally, but there was an actual society in Bolivia that didn't work for whatever reason, which is quite interesting. So, but we talked about that before, where human behaviour is difficult to predict because you've got this sort of wide range of choices you could make at any given period of time. We've sort of seen before how you can employ the wrong person based on sort of what comes up. What I want to do is sort of a bit of reflection now, and I have got the PDF I'll send you. I want to sort of reflect and think for a moment, just sort of consolidate the learning, and sort of make our way back. And think, okay, for a moment, we're going to do an exercise. We can sort of break away shortly. So we can sort of partner up. And I want you to work with the person, and working with the person, I want to sort of ask the person these questions, even time to answer these questions. What makes you who you are? And what makes you unique? So we'll do this exercise, and this will sort of take you to lunch. Okay. And after we've done that, we'll sort of do a bit more reflecting. And go. I'll leave this up anyway, so you don't need to jot it down. Okay? Yeah, unless you want to work in the beautiful sunshine outside, as you do. The sun is shining, and pink some apples over there, some blueberries, and I better not say health and safety. No, don't do that. As you do.
Anyone's up a tree soon.
Yeah. Exactly. See, that's my neuroticism coming up now. You're flaming my neuroticism. I was just trying to be conscientious. That's all. Okay. So let's have a play around till lunch, and we'll go from there.